A guy rolled into my shop, locked out of a $60,000 Model S because a $15 door handle part crumbled. So I read 300 Tesla repair invoices, since you all keep asking what breaks first. The cheap stuff just annoys you. But the last one costs more than the car. Number 1, the window regulators. This is the one nobody warns you about, and it is the clearest example of everything wrong with how these cars are built. Inside every door is the part that raises and lowers the glass, and Tesla built theirs around a little plastic sleeve that the cable runs through. That plastic gives out, the cable pops loose, and your window either drops on its own or freezes halfway with this awful grinding crunch. The dumb part is you cannot just buy the little plastic piece or the motor by itself. Tesla sells the whole assembly as one chunk, so a failure caused by a 2-cent piece of plastic turns into a real bill. On a Model 3, the part runs around $160 plus labor, and on the older Model S, folks have paid anywhere from $200 to over $500 at a service center for one window. I have done these on the bench, and the design really irritates me. Some clever people in the community now make a little aluminum replacement for that exact sleeve for under $20, and it never fails again. Tesla could have used metal from the factory. They chose plastic to save pennies, and you pay for it later. If your window starts moving slow, or you hear that scratchy crunch when it climbs, do not ignore it. Catch it before the cable fully lets go, and you might save the glass from dropping down into the door where it can get jammed. But a window that will not roll up is a small embarrassment. The next one can turn your entire dashboard into a black mirror, and it happens because Tesla's own software quietly killed it. Number 2, the main computer going blind. You have probably seen the clips. Old Tesla screen turns yellow around the edges. Haha, look at the banana screen. That is the lazy version of this story, and it is not even the real failure. The real one is worse. On the older Model S and Model X, the big center screen runs off a computer with a memory chip inside it, and that chip can only be written to so many times before it wears out. Here is the kicker. Tesla's own software sat there writing little logs to that chip all day, every day, burning through its life faster than it ever needed to. So after 4 to 6 years, the chip dies, and the entire center screen goes black. And on a Tesla, that screen is not just the radio, it is your backup camera, it is your defrost controls. On some of them, it is how you even see your speed. The car turns into a rolling brick with no dashboard. Tesla eventually got told by the federal safety regulators to fix this, and now there is a recall that covers it. But for years before that recall, owners paid. I have seen invoices from $2,500 for the full upgrade, down to a few $100s if you found someone who would just swap the worn chip. One person paid almost $1,000 for a repair on the circuit board of a 2015 Model S. My personal opinion, a company that builds the most software-heavy car on the planet should not have written its own brain to death with junk log files. So if you are shopping a used Model S or X from that era, this is the very first thing you ask. Has the computer been done? If the answer is no, you are buying a clock that is already ticking. But the old cars do not own a monopoly on expensive, because the next one strikes the brand new ones too, and it waits for the coldest morning of the year to do it. Number 3, the heat pump and the octovalve. On the newer Teslas, the Model Y, the latest Model 3, and the newer S and X, Tesla runs the heating and the cooling through one slick little system, and right in the middle of it is a part they actually named the octovalve. It is a valve that spins around and routes the coolant wherever it needs to go. When it works, it is clever engineering, real credit to them. When it fails, you find out in January. The system gets confused in deep cold, the heat quits, and people are scraping frost off the inside of their windshield doing 40 on the freeway. Tesla pushed a software fix and a recall for part of this, but the mechanical failures did not go away. The compressor in that system can start to grind, a nasty squeal in the cold, and if you keep driving it, it sends metal shavings through the whole loop and gunks up everything else in the system. A guy in Toronto needed his compressor and that whole valve assembly replaced, and the bill would have cleared $5,000 if he had been out of warranty. There is not much do-it-yourself here. This is sealed air conditioning work. But if you hear a squeal or a grind from the front of the car when it is cold, or your heat suddenly goes weak in winter, get it looked at right away. The longer that contamination spreads, the bigger the bill. A weak heater is miserable. A suspension part letting go at speed is something else entirely. So let me show you the failure that actually got my attention when I read the recall notices. Number 4, the suspension. This one comes in 2 flavors depending on your car. On the Model 3 and the Model Y, the trouble is the suspension links and the control arms, the parts down low that hold everything together. Tesla had to recall a batch of them because the bolts were not tightened right at the factory, and the link could literally separate while you were driving. Then they recalled another batch where a part called the knuckle was not hardened the right way and could crack. Sit with that one for a second. A part that holds the car together, and it can crack while you are driving. Owners also complain about this creaking duck call sound from worn ball joints, and a clunk over bumps when the bushings give out. Now on the bigger Model S and Model X, a lot of them ride on AIR suspension, and AIR suspension is a money pit on any car ever built, not just Tesla's. The compressor quits, the air struts crack and start leaking, and the little height sensors give out one by one. I had a Model X owner tell me his car sat at the service center for 77 days while they replaced both front struts, all the sensors, and the compressor. Another guy paid over $2,500 for one front strut and sensor job. Here is a pro tip that has saved people a fortune. Before you panic and buy a whole compressor, have someone check a little fuse that sits right on top of the 12-volt battery. A blown fuse there can act exactly like a dead compressor, and it is a $10 fix instead of a $2,000 one. And if you want off the air system entirely, there are companies making coil spring conversion kits to get you out of those expensive parts for good. Therefore, if you are keeping score, we have climbed from a $20 plastic sleeve to a several $1,000 suspension job. But before we get to the famous stuff everybody warned you about, there is one more, and it is the one place Tesla actually earned my respect. Number 5, the drive unit. On the early Model S, the motor itself, what Tesla calls the drive unit, developed this milling sound, a grinding, whirring hum that got louder over time. It was a bearing inside slowly chewing itself up, and in the early days, it was bad. Edmunds, the car review folks, ran a long-term Model S and went through 4 drive units in 30,000 miles. 4 of them. One owner reportedly had 5. So why is this number 5 and not number 1 with a horror story stapled to it? Because here is where I give Tesla real credit, and I do not hand that out lightly. They slapped an 8-year unlimited mile warranty on the drive unit and the battery, so almost everybody who had that grinding noise got a brand new motor for free. They redesigned the bearings, and the motors in the newer Model 3 are rated for something like 1 million miles. So if you hear a faint whir or hum that grows with speed on an older Model S, do not panic. Just get it documented while it is still under that long warranty. Out of that warranty, a drive unit can run you into the thousands. But this is the one failure on the whole list where Tesla actually stood behind the car and fixed the engineering. Credit where it is due. Now let me hit the two failures you have heard about 100 times, because there is a piece of both that the hype videos always skip. Number 6, the 12-volt battery. Yeah, this is the famous one. There are 1,000 videos about it already, so I almost left it off. But it breaks more often than anything else on these cars, and the part those videos skip over is the part that actually strands you. You have this giant battery under the floor worth thousands of dollars, and the thing that leaves you stuck is a tiny little battery the size of a lunchbox, the same basic idea as the one in your old gas car. On a Tesla, it works way harder. The car never really sleeps. It is phoning home, running Sentry mode, pulling down updates at 2 in the morning, keeping that big battery connected. All of that drains the little one, so it wears out fast, usually right around the 4-year mark. And the timing on it is almost cruel. 4 years is right about when the basic warranty taps out. So the most common failure on the car tends to hit you the exact moment Tesla stops paying for it. Owners start getting these creepy messages on the screen. Electrical system unable to support all features. Backup power is unavailable. Then one morning the car is just a very expensive paperweight in the driveway. I had a Model 3 owner last winter swear up and down his car was bricked and the main battery was toast. It was a $40 12-volt battery that took me 20 minutes to swap. I did a whole separate video just on this little thing. That is how often it comes up. Now, for the part that actually surprised me. On the newer cars, Tesla switched to a little lithium version, and when those die, you cannot even jump them with a normal battery from another car, because the voltages do not match. So my tip is simple. If your Tesla is creeping up on 4 years old, do not wait for the warning. Swap that little battery on your own terms, in your garage, for under $100, instead of on the shoulder of the highway waiting for a flatbed. But a dead 12-volt is a quick fix once you know the trick. The other famous one is the failure that left a real customer of mine standing in my parking lot, locked out of a $60,000 car. Number 7. The door handles. Remember my locked out customer from the very start? Here is what actually failed on his car. Tesla got cute with the door handles, and cute always costs you later. On the older Model S, the handles sit flush with the door and then motor out to greet you when you walk up. Cool the first week you own it, but inside each one is a little gear and a tiny switch. And on the early cars, that gear is basically cheap, soft metal, and it cracks. The switch wiring flexes every single time you open the door until it finally snaps. So the motor whirs and the handle just sits there, flush, mocking you. That is exactly what happened to him. Tesla does not even support the old handles anymore, so they want to swap in the newer style at around $1,000 per handle, times 4 doors if you are really unlucky. Do that math. That is more than some folks paid for their last whole car. The good news for the home mechanic is, there are little kits out there with a proper steel gear for about $20. And if you are halfway decent with a trim tool, you can knock the job out in an afternoon. Now the Model 3 and the Model Y went a different direction. No motors, but the handle is electronic, and in winter it freezes shut. People stand out in an ice storm yanking a frozen handle while the car just blinks at them. And if that little battery from number 6 is weak, the doors get even more stubborn because everything is electric. There is a manual release inside, but I have watched people completely forget it exists in a moment of panic. My honest take: a door handle should open a door. That is its one job. A piece of bent metal did this job perfectly for 100 years. Tesla bolted on a motor and a circuit board and turned a free repair into a $1,000 one. Everything up to here you can live with. Annoying, sometimes pricey, but survivable. The next one is the failure that makes grown adults set their own Tesla on fire. And I mean that literally, you will see in a second. Number 8, the high voltage battery and the doors that trap you. This is the big one. The bottom of the stack, the repair that turns a car into scrap metal. The giant battery under the floor can fail in a couple of ways that have nothing to do with it slowly losing range. On a lot of the older Model S and Model X, there are heavy switches inside the pack called contactors, and they can weld themselves shut. Or there is a special fuse inside the pack that just dies of old age. Either way, the car will not turn on. It is dead and the pack is sealed, so you are not fixing this in your driveway. Now here is the scandal. On the very oldest packs, that fuse sits on the top of the battery, which means to reach a part worth a couple of $100, they have to drop the entire 1,000-pound battery out from under the car. One owner of a 2013 Model S got quoted over $11,000 just for that fuse. $11,000, and that is only for the fuse. That is creeping up on the cost of a whole replacement pack, which out of warranty runs anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 depending on the car. There was a guy in Finland who got a quote like that, towed his Tesla out to a field, packed it with dynamite, and blew it sky high. He filmed the whole thing. After reading 300 of these invoices, I kind of get it. Then there is the Model X and those falcon wing doors, the ones that open straight up like a spaceship. I personally think they are the single dumbest thing Tesla ever bolted onto a car. The sensors throw fake errors, the doors stick, and I read about a parent whose 3 kids got stuck inside because not one door would open. They had to climb over the seats to get out. Another owner took 12 trips to the service center over 13 months to get theirs sorted. And the newest twist is the ugliest one. On the latest cars, the battery is built into the structure of the car. It is the floor. So when one of those cars gets into even a minor crash, the insurance company takes one look, realizes they cannot separate the battery from the body, and just writes the whole car off. A little fender bender totaled, because Tesla glued the most expensive part in the car right into the frame. That, right there, is the real story these invoices tell. So after all 300 of them, what is the actual lesson? It is the thing I said at the very start, and the numbers back it up. Consumer Reports just ranked Tesla dead last out of every single brand for older used car reliability. Over in Germany, they put every car through one of the toughest inspections on the planet, and the Model Y just flunked it worse than anything they have seen in 10 years. And do not even get me started on the Cybertruck, which limped in near the bottom of those same rankings in its very first year on the road. And yet these cars are still cheap to live with day to day. Both things are true at once. Tesla is cheap to own and brutal to repair, and the bill almost always waits until the warranty is gone. If I were buying one used with my own money, I would run from an out-of-warranty early Model X, and I would not lose a minute of sleep over a recent Model 3. That is my honest read. Now, if you are even thinking about buying a Model Y right now, do not click away yet, because I just put out a whole video on the 5 reasons you should wait for the 2027 Model Y and skip the 2026 entirely. There is one reason in there that would stop you from signing for this year's car cold, if you knew it before you walked into the showroom. Do not be the person who finds that out after the money is gone. Go watch that one next. I will see you over there.